Oliver Grayson, without a doubt, is the biggest waste within the series of Invincible. After watching Season 3 and seeing how he plays off of Invincible, since Season 3 obviously is just kind of planting the seeds for Oliver, but even then, those scenes alone did a lot for me. It made me hooked on his character and made me think that he's definitely going to be a problem in the near future. He started off very strong, and past the stuff within the show, he's honestly very solid. However, towards the second half of the comics, I gotta say, Oliver kinda sucks. Now, before I get into that, let's break down who Oliver was, what he represented, and how he kind of falls off through the second half of the story. Now, Oliver Grayson, also known as Kid Omni-Man, is, well, the Kid of Omni-Man. Unlike Mark, who's human and Viltrumite, Oliver is part Viltrumite and part thraxxan, aka bug people. Kid Omni-Man was pretty much an example to show how Nolan started off fresh, which Mark of course was not happy about initially. However, Omni-Man knew from the jump that Oliver was never going to be as strong as Mark due to the thraxxan's DNA. While Mark was somebody who Omni-Man was prepping to conquer Earth so that Mark could eventually become stronger than himself, Oliver's definitely going to have a lot of potential due to his DNA allowing him to rapidly age, but in the end he's never going to be as powerful as Omni-Man or Mark. After the Viltrumites come in to capture Nolan, Invincible is now left to take care of Oliver. This is where Debbie comes around and doesn't resent Oliver for being Nolan's kid necessarily, but she does not like the idea of Mark returning home with another child. And so eventually this would lead into her raising him like how she did with Mark, and he'd be conscious when Angstrom Levy would make his move, leading into him and his mom being threatened pretty badly. Luckily though, Mark did what he had to do and ended Angstrom Levy's life. Or so he thought. After accidentally killing Angstrom, he'd be back to square one pretty much. He'd begin training again, along with even helping Oliver become his own superhero. And again, due to the thraxxan's DNA, Oliver ages significantly faster, so although barely a few months have passed, Oliver can now walk, talk, and even gain access to his powers much earlier than Mark. And this leads into him being in a similar position to Mark at the beginning of the story, where he's inspired by his father and wants to be great like Omni-Man. But we have current Mark currently bouncing back and forth with Oliver on this, saying that he can't be a byproduct of Nolan. However, due to Oliver not being a human, he's having a hard time understanding the concept of life or death, as shown when he fights the Mauler Twins. After the Maulers dispose of the Guardians, Invincible and Kid Omni-Man team up to go and take him down. And while Mark deals with the big boy stuff, Oliver is left with the task of defeating and putting away the Maulers. And this is where his Viltrumite side finally kicks in, and he would just brutally murder the two. Now, if you want to say the first death is justified because he might have not known his own strength and maybe he didn't hold back, this is his first real big fight after all, but that theory immediately crumbles after he deals with the second twin. This kid was basically on the same type of timing as the Mark and Omni-Man variants from Season 2. Mark would see this and he'd try to tell Oliver that this isn't the path he wants to go down, to which Oliver would counter with the fact that Mark killed Angstrom, so how is this any different? And he'd point out to Mark that maybe his father was right, because when Mark killed Angstrom, he pretty much wanted to put him down for sure so that he didn't become a bigger threat. Which, funnily enough, is exactly what happens once we find out Angstrom's alive. Had Mark finished the job, none of the damage in the Invincible War would have happened, their home wouldn't have been completely destroyed, and Rex would have been alive. Anywho, Oliver would participate in the Invincible War, taking down a Mark variant with the help of other superheroes, and even coming in to help Mark when Powerplex tried blaming him for the situation. And despite Oliver being so young, he's someone who's being pushed into the right direction, proving Omni-Man wrong to an extent. It goes without saying that he's definitely one of Earth's strongest heroes and he has some ridiculous potential. I honestly think he's starting off way better than his brother did in Season 1. And even when Mark would fight off against Conquest, the next best line of defense that could really support Mark was himself and Adam Eve, and we all saw how that worked out for him. After this situation, Mark would admit to Oliver that he's right, and if he wants to permanently remove certain threats, he can't hesitate to kill them. The Mauler Twins is one thing, but people like Angstrom and Conquest can't be spared any longer. And so, by the end of Season 3, Oliver is technically right. It's said when Kirkman was cooking with Oliver, he wanted him to be kind of like Damian Wayne in a sense, where he'd want the bad guys to be put down for good. Which leads into the whole back and forth with Mark and Oliver, leading into Oliver, or Damian in this case, bouncing back and forth with Mark, who would be Batman in this situation, trying to make Oliver do better. And honestly, it does seem like he's forming into his own hero, and for the better. We'd see him glow up along with changing his name to Young Omni Man instead of Kid Omni-Man, get a new costume, and it seems like he fully adjusted to Earth's lifestyle. We know similarly to Mark at the beginning, he's helping the world slowly but surely, taking down threats like the Elephant and even the Lizard League, who we saw in Season 2 definitely give our weaker heroes some trouble. Even despite being a hero for not even 6 months, Oliver became one of Earth's strongest defenders, which leads into him being a part of the main line of defense when the Viltrumite War begins. Of course, the most important thing for Oliver during these events events is him finally reuniting with Nolan since season 2. Initially, he wasn't going to be brought into the war due to being so young, but Nolan wanted to see how Earth changed him for the better, and Oliver of course wants to show his father what he's learned. This leads into him instantly seeing Conquest and remembering what bro did to him on Earth, and although Oliver is a lot stronger, he's still nowhere near that elite Viltrumite tier. He'd get his head caved in by Conquest, bullied by Lucan, and eventually would get bullied by Conquest again, and Mark would have to come in to save his life. After Conquest is defeated, Nolan and Oliver would spend a few months together reminiscing what happened in the past and where they both currently are at in their life. We see Oliver hearing Nolan's story of feeling regret, while Oliver would mention about his mother on thraxxan, if Nolan truly loves Deb, and things of that sort. We also get to see their clashing mentalities when Nolan buries Conquest, as while Nolan respected Conquest enough to bury him since he was an elite Viltrumite warrior, Oliver wished nothing more than to chuck his corpse into the sun. From his perspective, he does not deserve any honor nor respect. But we see Nolan trying to reassure to him that he himself was a failure to his people, which does kind of put Oliver in a unique pair of shoes. He wanted to be so much like his father, but the version he aspired to be is no longer the one he is really familiar with. And seeing these two different versions of these characters at this point in time really does make up for one of the best interactions within the comics. And as we know, the Viltrumite leader Thragg would arrive, and Oliver would try to give him a big ass beatdown coming up, which ends up about as well as you'd expect. And past this point in the story, we see Oliver nearly dying along with his father and brother. After recovering, however, Alan would begin to think bigger, which then leads into the idea of the Scourge virus getting brought up. Alan knows that the best way to wipe out the Viltrumites completely would be with this. However, it does put the rest of Earth at risk. However, to Oliver, he doesn't really care for the Viltrumite Empire or really much of the people on Earth. The only real connection he has is with his mom or Deb, who is already with them in space, so he could care less. He'd be on Alan's side while Nolan and Mark are trying not to kill everyone, leading into Alan and Oliver both fighting Nolan and then Mark himself. But when Thragg gets involved, that's when things begin to die down and the Viltrumites would settle into Earth undetected. And in my opinion, this is where really the seeds that were planted in season 3 begin to really bloom. His lacking regard of human life really does contrast well with the arc that Nolan went through, who actually found the value of life. We do see him being a part of the coalition and even settling with his own girlfriend, who's a weird bug lady. He also thinks lobsters are attractive. Yeah, this kid's a freak. Seriously though, by this point, the story of Oliver's character has come pretty full circle, with him even getting a very good one-to-one scene with Alan. He would explain how he was taught by Deb and Mark what people on Earth should do, but even despite growing up there for most of his life, he doesn't really see the purpose in saving them for the long run. Due to him not really having a significant lifespan, it's hard for him to grow attached to life itself. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this is definitely one of my favorite panels within the story, but after this point, Oliver gets really fuck all to do. And you know what? If you want that to be the case, that's perfectly fine. Oliver could just be cool, be buff, have his mustache, be there for his brother, and pretty much learn the Viltrumite way that his brother would eventually go on to push. But Oliver just dies. Oh, but get this, guys. Oliver wanted this to happen because it gave him motivation to fight Thragg. Oliver's plan failed. How would he predict Adam Eve doing this? Oliver actually is an idiot. He died failing. Oh, but no, Mark would eventually win. Yeah, because of Adam Eve, Robot, Alan, and literally everybody giving him a handout. Oliver was wrong. He did this so that Mark could be strong enough. He wasn't strong enough. His death served zero purpose. And you had the opportunity to revive Oliver and actually enhance the character. Hear me out. If Oliver is lacking regard of human life, he would obviously lack regard of his own life. So him sacrificing himself so that Mark could eventually avenge him, it is in character for Oliver to do that. But you can literally have Adam Eve revive both of them, showing that Oliver was wrong and proving Mark right that life is precious. And this would not only give Oliver more of a reason to follow the new Viltrumite way, and this would literally enhance the ending by like 10 times. But Oliver just dies. He's kind of stupid, and this death is purely for shock value. But I will say there is one benefit from Oliver's death, and that's definitely the funeral scene. Mark wailing out on Alan and then Adam Eve raging on Mark is definitely one of the best scenes within the comics, without a doubt. And I know I've been saying that a lot within this video, but that should go to tell you how impactful Oliver was. Season 3 made him start off very strong, and within the comics, they carried him out perfectly. And then up until the very end, he just kind of is there there until he dies. And if you want to push the whole idea of Oliver needing to die so Mark could be strong enough, then show that. He wasn't strong enough in the final fight, bro. I don't know, man. It's just disappointing because Invincible has executed very well written deaths in the past. However, this is by far the worst one, and if I'm being honest, this is one of the worst deaths ever in fiction. It's honestly really stupid. But I still very much love the Invincible comics along with Oliver as a character until the very end. But let me know down below who you guys think is wasted potential within Invincible.